Which arc was overall the better arc? Bleach's Fullbring arc or One Piece's Fishman Island? What's up everybody, ForneverWorld here today to take a closer look at each of these arcs, the Fullbring arc from Bleach and One Piece's Fishman Island. Since both of them have seemingly wrapped up, there's probably a little bit left to go, but for the most part, the main plot points have wrapped up. I thought it'd be a good idea to take a compare and contrast of both of them, see which one I feel delivered the best product and overall was the most solid arc. Now, between Bleach's Fullbring and One Piece's Fishman Island, a lot of people complained that both of them were slow paced and they felt like there was a lot of things that were missed opportunity. Now, when I look at them, you start off, you gotta look at, okay, who was the main villains for them? On Bleach's side, we have Tsukishima and Genjo. On One Piece's side, we have Hody Jones and Vanderdecken. Let's take a closer look, I guess, at the main villains, which were Hody Jones and Genjo. Now, Hody Jones, his main goal, it was almost as a racist thing. He basically hated humans, and he felt like fishmen that were trying to be a part of humans were like, you know, traitors and such. So Hody Jones was really just, at the end of the day, a plain racist, and he was, you know, a crazy guy who took steroids and such to get his goal. On the other hand, we have Genjo, that his basically whole motive was he hated Soul Society for whatever they did to him, and he had a grudge against them, and he wanted to use Ichigo's powers so that he could get stronger and, you know, plot his revenge and such. Who got closer to their goal? Let's see. With Hody Jones, he pretty much got beat down, and at the same time with Genjo pretty much got beat down, and both of them really had no fighting chances, seemingly felt like. Luffy basically always punched down and beat up Hody Jones. Ichigo within seconds beat up Genjo. So in both aspects, they basically both failed and really didn't get close to their goals. If anything, you could probably say that Genjo kind of got closer because at least he obtained Ichigo's powers and got back a lot of the powers probably that he didn't have, or got a lot stronger, as opposed to Hody Jones. He took those steroid pills and really it didn't help him at all, because at the end of the day, Luffy still pounded the heck out of him and he had no chance. Looking at the side villains that were like, you know, they were big villains, but they weren't the big ones. Vanderdecken and Tsukishima. Now with Vanderdecken, he wanted Shirahoshi, and if he couldn't get Shirahoshi, he was like, screw everything else, I'm going to destroy Fishman Island. With Tsukishima, his basically goal was to help Genjo and his plans and such. Tsukishima failed, Vanderdecken kind of got closer. So in the aspect of those two, Vanderdecken, in my opinion, got closer to his goal because he almost destroyed Fishman Island, and he did wreck the ship, the Noah arc, as opposed to Tsukishima. Aside from getting Ichigo's powers, Genjo really didn't get anywhere with his revenge. So between the main villains and such, I feel as though they were kind of both letdowns. Hody Jones, like, although it seemed like he was kind of going somewhere with it, he really didn't get nowhere, and in the end he ended up in a prison cell as an old man. Genjo seemingly was killed instantly by a couple of slashes from Ichigo. So you could kind of say that both of the villains really were let down villains and didn't do exactly what they set out to do and were beaten fairly easy. Now let's look at actually the main characters and what happened to them in this arc, and did they develop any. You look at Luffy, we've seen a lot of development in Luffy as far as what happened to him in the 2-year time skip. Since both of them had time skips, you could actually take a look at these two things and compare and contrast them. You see pretty much everyone in the Straw Hat crew, we saw development and changes in them. For example, we saw Chopper's monster point, he could control it for 3 minutes. We've seen Sanji and Zoro seemingly have Haki now, and they gotten a lot stronger. They literally defeated a villain that they could not defeat, the pacifistas. Before the time skip, they couldn't defeat them, and they beat them seemingly with little to no effort. On the other hand, we got the Bleach characters, and not much has really changed with them. We've seen them get into action, and for the most part, the villains weren't challenging enough to, you know, actually pose a threat. So we can't really compare exactly how far they go, although you could kind of say Ikaku really seemed like he didn't get that much stronger, because out of everyone he really took a beat down, as well as Rukia. Although that's my favorite character in Bleach, I gotta admit that it was a very big letdown that after a time skip of I believe what, 17 months or so, she really didn't get anywhere, and she almost seems like she didn't get stronger, and she kind of was a letdown for me. So in that aspect, in my opinion, the Straw Hats definitely had a lot more development and was shown to have improved greatly, opposed to the captains and such, where they almost struggled greatly. You look at Byakuya, he's supposed to be very strong and such, and in his fight against Tsukishima, he had to get to a desperate point to win his match. So yes, in my opinion, the Straw Hats, as opposed to the captains in Bleach, and this arc definitely had a lot more push and were developed a lot more fleshed out in the arc. Take a look at the main characters themselves, Luffy and Ichigo. Ichigo throughout the whole arc was basically trying to get his powers back and find out who's the real villain, and was confused for the most part. We did see a development in the fact that they were basically testing him to see if he would go with Genjo and such, and he basically, he made a wise decision. He's like, no, I don't care about that they were following me and such. They were doing their job. I know what's right and wrong. So in that aspect, you got to give Ichigo props that he stood level-headed with all the confusion, who to trust and such. He still knew what the right thing to do was. Luffy's big struggle in this whole thing was basically taking down Hody and rescuing Fishman Island. Luffy accomplished that goal, but at the end, you kind of could say that we really don't know exactly if he would have accomplished it or not, because he was punching the Noah 100,000 times and it was smashing and such, but it didn't seem like it was going to make it in time. And then the Sea Kings came. They did stop the Noah from completely falling and crashing. Luffy did go crazy and it was very enjoyable to watch, but he didn't quite rescue Fishman Island like he was trying to. All the side villains on each of the arcs were both, I would say, fairly disposable. They were easily defeated and such, so you can't really even throw them into the equation, because in that aspect they're kind of equal. Because if you look at the side fishmen, they were literally all pounded down by Sanji and the rest of the Straw Hats, and if you look at the rest of the Fullbringers, they were more or less fairly easily defeated, except for a few that kind of gave a challenge, but then again that kind of discredits the value of the development and the characters of the captains and the, and Rukia. Overall, both arcs, I gotta say, moved at kind of slow paces. At times there are points where it's kind of like, this could have done without, and we didn't really need to see this flashback for that long. Well, I gotta say, with both arcs, at the end of the arc is where we really get a special treat, because in the end of the Fishman Island arc, we start to hear great things of, the main story and plot with battles of Akainu and Aokiji. And towards the end of the Fullbring arc, we hear all the crazy stuff of Yukitaka and how they were basically plotting on killing Ichigo, throughout the whole thing, but it was Ichigo himself that changed ways of Soul Society and everything in a whole. So overall, if you look at both arcs, they weren't the greatest arcs. In fact, some could consider them sort of low points in each of the series' plots. There were some good points, there were some bad points. Characters had some development here, but then some of them were shafted to the back. Well, mostly it was Bleach's arc that was the characters were shafted to the back, because in One Piece, pretty much every Straw Hat had developed greatly, opposed to in Bleach, the characters, some of them had development. For the most part, it was really messy. So I gotta say that even though both of them had, their ups and downs, I think slightly the One Piece Fishman Island arc did do better than the Bleach arc, because the Straw Hats overall, every single character had development, opposed to the ones in Bleach they didn't. I gotta say that Bleach's plot definitely had a bit more of interest as far as it was mainly dealing with the main plot of the story. It was Ichigo's life and everything, and that's what Bleach is really about. Opposed to One Piece, it was really just about this island, this Fishman Island, the battles on here. So I'd say that Bleach, for the most part, did keep my attention a lot higher than One Piece's. But the end result, which one really delivered the most? I gotta say that One Piece, because the fact that Oda wrapped everything up really nicely. We've seen exactly what happened with every single villain. We've seen what happened with every single thing. And then it nicely ties into the next arc. We clearly see it starting to go into another arc where Robin starts talking to Neptune. With Bleach, it kind of seems like it's getting a bit messy at the end. We're hearing flashback stories and such, but it's seemingly going somewhere else. But I gotta say that One Piece definitely delivered slightly more than Bleach, but they both had their lows and highs. So let me know which arc you guys thought was the better arc, Fishman Island or Fullbring arc, and why. But that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Thumbs up for the arc that you think delivered better, and have an awesome day, people.